Well, it started as Michigan versus everybody, and it was a success there for Jim Harbaugh. The Wolverines winning their first title in nearly 26 years. All smiles when it happened for when it comes to the Wolverines. But since then, a mixed bag of feelings. Thoughts are running it back. That campaign filled with so many question marks stemming from who? Jim Harbaugh. Now it seems like Jim versus Michigan. Some recent events here when we talk about the timeline. January 8th, of course, winning it. First time since 1997. Monday, interviews with the LA Chargers. The NFL ranks on Tuesday with the ATL and the Falcons. And it seems like we're playing that game again when it comes to Jim. So a lot of questions. And for more on that, when it comes to Harbaugh, this dilemma, we get our 24/7 Michigan insider, Sam Webb. We're kind of caught up in a web here, Sam. And Jim Harbaugh is doing his annual tour of kicking the tires with the NFL. He's been there before. But how concerned should the Wolverine brass be as they watch this play out in front of them?
Brandon, very concerned. Very concerned. I think this is a threat level greater than last season. I think it's on par with the Minnesota year. So that was after the 2021 season. I think he went to that interview with the thought that he was going to get the job. It wound up being an actual interview, and things fell apart for whatever reason. But I think at that point that he was really thinking that he was gonna go, and I think that this is like that because he won a championship. Like, he did everything that he said he was gonna do, and he has a parallel dream of winning a Super Bowl. And I think that Michigan fans, maybe even some in the admin, I think they're stuck in a rut of thinking that there's something that could have been done that would make him just shelve the NFL consideration henceforth and forevermore. And I just don't think that's going to happen. Even if Jim Harbaugh stays at Michigan and signs a lucrative extension that makes him the highest paid coach in all of college football, which is on the table, even if that extension is signed, I think that we'll be back here next year talking about if the NFL is interested, him listening, because he has a parallel dream. And he's shown that he can compartmentalize. So in a lot of places and with a lot of coaches, this would be such a distraction that it would mitigate your performance. It would cut you away from achieving the bottom line. And clearly it hasn't for Jim Harbaugh. He's had dalliances with the NFL after each of the last 3 seasons. All they've done in that time is win 3 straight over Ohio State, win 3 straight outright Big Ten championships for the first time in program history, and win a national championship. So he's shown that even with that NFL dalliance going on, even with that parallel dream, the door being left open to it, he can still achieve at a high level at Michigan. So definitely they should be concerned. I still think that they have a decent chance of keeping him, but the threat is real. And if an NFL team is willing to give him a combination of the money he's seeking and the level of control that I think he probably wants, then I think he'll go.
Speaking of that control, there are some reports out there that Harbaugh, if he were to come back to Michigan, he wanted an immunity clause from any potential NCAA findings. Is that true from what you're hearing? Or if that is true, would Michigan agree to such a clause there?
Yeah, so I haven't heard that immunity, like from any sort of punishment. I haven't heard those words used. What I was told, and I reported this back early last month, so this shouldn't be a surprise for anyone who follows us over on the Michigan Insider, that he had an issue with the for-cause clause. Now, you might have an issue with a for-cause clause just in general after you look around and you just saw, what happened with Mel Tucker. It's kind of an arbitrary thing. Michigan fires Mel Tucker saying it's for cause when, months before that, they kept him on when the same cause was known about, right? So if you were a head coach anywhere, even if you haven't done what Mel Tucker is alleged to have done, you're thinking, hey, man, this is kind of a flimsy thing that schools can use. But I think in this sense with Jim Harbaugh, in this instance, I should say with Jim Harbaugh, is more grounded in Michigan's response to the NCAA back in the winter and then the Big Ten here in the fall. So you had the COVID violations that the NCAA is coming after Michigan for really going after Jim Harbaugh specifically about it. Michigan made all kinds of concessions about secondary violations, having an analyst coach, contact with recruits during the COVID period. They made all those concessions, said, okay, we did this, give us the punishment. They wanted the NCAA for Michigan to say that Jim Harbaugh lied. Jim Harbaugh would not do that. I think that he was of the mind that we should be making any concessions in this period. And the same thing when the Big Ten came around and talking about Connor Stallions. He kind of alluded to it after the national championship game where he said, we're innocent. We're innocent of this. For months, I think he's been wanting to say that. I don't think that he was on board with dropping the lawsuit that Michigan filed. I think he's a fight to the hilt against these organizations that clearly have it out for me. I think that's where a lot of this is coming from, and whether that is aimed at the AD in Ward Manual or administration or just university leadership as a whole, because that's not a decision to drop the lawsuit, for instance. That's not a decision that's made by the athletic director unilaterally. So this, to me, is him saying, listen, I want protection. Whatever decisions you make or concessions you make to these organizations about punishment, I want to make sure I'm shielded from all of that. And so whether that's Ward Manual or, the university leadership or a combination therein, give me the kind of protection that I need to feel secure, that I won't just be able to be broomed out if they come down arbitrarily with a punishment that I think doesn't fit whatever the crime they say I committed is. And so will Michigan meet that? I think that there's probably some bending that can be done, but I don't know of any college contract. I don't know of any college contract that doesn't have some sort of show cause language. I mean, if we were talking NFL, okay, but seems like all the college contracts have that in some way, shape, or form. So I'd be surprised by a contract that didn't have any such language in it for Michigan, but maybe there's some bending. Maybe you can get some concessions from Michigan in that regard. And ultimately, I think if he stays at Michigan, there will be some, but not total immunity when all is said and done.
Look, as we know, and you know this better than anybody, this is a unique situation. We've never seen negotiations like this. Of course, a little different since he has a natty under his belt. But I'm curious, from your perspective, is he using this as a leverage when we're talking the NFL for money, power out of Michigan? Is that how we're viewing this now?
So, all negotiations are about leverage. First of all, let's just start there. When you go to negotiate with people at CBS, I'm Brandon. People can't do what Brandon does. They can't do what I do. That's leverage, right? That's Jim Harbaugh right now with Michigan and the NFL. He has shown everywhere he's been, San Diego, Stanford, the 49ers, and now Michigan, I have turned every program around. Very few coaches, I don't know if any coach can say that. Everywhere I've been, I've turned it around at a championship level or a championship contending level. That is leverage. Now, the question I think you're asking is he doing it purely to leverage Michigan? I don't think so. I think that his pursuit of the NFL is about pursuit of his parallel dream. He dreams of winning a Super Bowl, just like he dreamed of winning a national championship. And so he is in a unique position that his leverage with Michigan is we just conquered the world despite impossible circumstances. Basically, you got to give me all of or most of what I want. And so, he'll be the highest paid coach in college football. I imagine his salary pool is going to increase for his assistant coaches. I'm sure there's some NIL things he's going to want. And then there are going to be probably some concessions as far as his the for cause language in his contract. But the other thing they have to concede is they have to wait for him to do his NFL dance. And NFL teams now have to know that when they talk to him, it's more like not him seeking a job, it's you seeking Jim Harbaugh. So it's like, okay, if you want me, give me what I want money-wise. And what he's been telling people around Michigan, and I heard this from multiple people who've told me this, that he's saying, if the NFL team doubles my salary, so his base salary was $8 million. So Is the NFL team going to be willing to pay him $16 million a year or close to it, let's say $14 to $16 million a year? There may be a team that does that. Okay, that's just one piece. Now, are you going to be willing to give me the kind of control over front office decisions that I want? I got some pushback. I was talking to one of my agent contacts about this in NFL circles, handles, coaches and players and whatnot. And he said, well, I don't know that control per se in front offices, that like he's the GM, is as important as either say or connection, compatibility with whoever they bring in. So are they hiring a GM that he's compatible with, much like his brother has in Baltimore? If there's a team that's willing to do that, some variation of control, then if you pair those two things, then I think an NFL team can get them. But you got to meet all those requirements, because I got leverage. My leverage over you, NFL team, is I can stay at Michigan. I'm sweet. I can be the highest paid coach in college football, and I own the world. So if you want me, you got to meet all these criteria to make it happen. And if you can, then I'll come. And that's kind of how leverage is used for Jim Harbaugh, but it's not being used purely for the sake of moving Michigan for more money or moving the NFL for more money.
Right.
I think it's maximizing the opportunity wherever he might be.
Well, let me ask you this. I got two quick ones for you, Sam, here. Let's talk about life after Harbaugh, assuming he's gone to the NFL. What are their options? Who takes over? I'm assuming it's in-house, but what are you hearing? Yeah,
I think the administration at Michigan respects and values the culture that Jim Harbaugh has built enough to prioritize it. So the first way you prioritize it is keep Jim Harbaugh, but you can't make the man sign. You can't make him sign a contract. If he wants to go to the NFL, he's going to go. What's the next best thing? What's your next best way of preserving that culture? And that's hiring his number one assistant, and that's Sharon Moore. Sharon Moore has been here 6 years. He's worked his way up from tight ends coach to O-line coach to coordinator. He coached a team or unit that won the Joe Moore Award twice. He was the guy under fire at the end of the season. And this is not just a stand-in. Like, you got to make real-life battlefield decisions when you're coaching against Penn State, and you can't block them. And he changed the game plan on the fly in a winning way. You got to be coaching against Ohio State. I think they saw enough to say, well, there'll be a search and they'll talk to national people. But I think the respect for the job that he's done here at Michigan and the value for Jim Harbaugh's culture, the value that they placed on preserving that, makes him the overwhelming favorite to take over for Jim Harbaugh if Jim goes to the NFL.
And it does help that he won those games this season, as you mentioned there. Hey, look, Sam Webb all over Michigan. I'm pretty sure you won't be any downtime the next couple of days, so I'm pretty sure we'll see you again on HQ until Harbaugh makes a decision. Appreciate it, my guy, as always. Get into it straight there when it comes to the Wolverines. Hey, look, in 2024, we don't know who's going to coach, but it doesn't matter because the schedule is out there for the masses. Competition at a high level starts September 7th with Texas. You got USC, Washington there in October. And then, of course, November 30th, the granddaddy of them all, Ohio State Buckeyes. Oh, boy. Guess what? You're in Columbus. I don't know if Jim wants to go back there. We'll see how that pans out the rest of the way.